Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Create Podcast. I'm so excited to have my dear friend Sarah Potter back on the show years later. And we are in for a very juicy and a little vulnerable from my end conversation because Sarah recently released a brilliant book called Sober Magic that's actually been life changing for me. And we're going to dive right into it. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm so happy. And I was just reflecting before we started recording about how I met you. And the first time I met you in person was, I believe, at spring break back in, I want to say like 2018 or 2017. And I know that was probably like an earlier season in your sobriety. And at the time you were curating. First of all, I think we chatted about your career before, about how, you really sort of stepped into this role in the art world and your journey has evolved so much. And I would love to hear a little bit about where you're at now. And for our listeners, maybe if you could share a little bit about the transition from curatorial work to this more magical, nourishing, a little bit witchy, and of course, tarot world that you're in now.
Well, I love art. I love art so much, and I love creative minds. So I know that art and creative expression will always be a part of my life. It's just changed and evolved as I've changed and evolved. And when I was doing curation in an independent manner and art advisory, I was working with clients, and I feel like it's about finding what that client wants. But my personal favorite kind of space to be in was that intersection of magic and art, because I really do believe that art is a spiritual practice. I love how artists become channels. Art and music is what showed me the divine presence. Like it really became a tangible way for me to understand the divine. Upon further reflection, I started to see that one of the reasons I was really good at placing artwork in clients' homes and collections was because of my psychic abilities and being able to understand. I mean, absolutely listening to what people were saying, but being able to hear what wasn't being said. I feel like so much of how we see ourselves and define ourselves is through what we do to make money and through
Yeah.
and how we spend our time in our career. And understanding that as we change and circumstances change, sometimes more has to change than maybe we initially uh, thought. And I do feel that through the deepening spiral of my sobriety and the layers of healing and uncovering, I started to see that I didn't know exactly how I fit into the art world anymore in the role that I wanted, or the role I enjoyed. And something that I think is very cool about art, well, about everything, is it's always changing. And I think resisting the change is never good. And I like seeing how the art world changed and evolved, and it was ever evolving. And as I evolved and changed, I realized that how I wanted to move through it was shifting. So I love art. Art's always going to be a part of my world. But what was truly satisfying to me was working with people in a different way and really being able to be a psychic medium full time and working with tarot, working as a witch. And my career in the art world reflected my spiritual practice. And I wanted to step more deeply into that. And I found that the best way I could be of service was shifting my role. And I work with tons of artists as clients, tons of musicians, tons of actors. A lot of my old art collecting clients have become tarot clients, and they come to my events and my rituals. So as much as I thought I had to give up so much, I didn't. I just had to change and shift.
Mm.
Um and I love being able to work as a channel with my clients and channel messages for artists and then get to see them reflected in their work. It's so beautiful. It was hard to change, and I speak about that in my book, but I see art and my spiritual beliefs as so intertwined that I've enjoyed seeing how I've been able to grow up and change and evolve and appreciate art in different ways.
Thank you for sharing that. And you are such a permission slip for me. And, I'll share a little bit more as we go deeper into your book and into your story. But there is this separation of the whole world and the art world sometimes, or at least there are people who try to make it so. And that's the dark side, that's the shadow side of the art world. And in reality, as kids, we're always creative and we're always channeling, whether it's through music, dance, or I mean, all of it. As a kid, you don't have any restrictions on the medium. And so when you stepped into this new role, it was like an exhale for me. And I think I shared that with you before. So thank you for expanding your definition of what it means to be a creative person in this world. And one thing I wanted to ask you, we're going to talk about your amazing book, which I'm working through actually in real time. And I'm so excited to share a little bit more. It's very special to me. When I met you, I was actually going through a really dark time, though well, disclaimer, I'd never had like a physical addiction to alcohol. I definitely had very dark seasons where it was consuming to me, which technically is addiction. And so when I met you, it was actually during that period. So I think you're placed in my life as sort of a mentor or a guiding light, a star to help me because and I also really appreciate that you shared in your book and in general that it's not always like a one time situation. There might be multiple attempts, right? So a few years after I met you, I went sober for a year and then I kind of reframed my relationship, but I found that it wasn't enough. And I'll share a little bit more later. But I was wondering if you could share any tips for someone who may be taking a moment to reassess their relationship with alcohol or other substances and they're part of the art world. And there's champagne, there's parties, there's openings and art fairs. And it's so hard to imagine yourself sometimes not participating and not feeling like you're outside of that. Can you talk a little bit about how that worked for you and any tips for someone who wants to give this a try?
I totally understand that. I mean, I can relate to it. And something I think about a lot is that I feel like we're shown the trope of the tortured artist and the inspiration that can come from great pain. And yes, we can find inspiration anywhere, but I don't think we need to keep ourselves in chaos in order to good work. And I think to speak to the question of what to do if you're reassessing that relationship with substances and how to move through openings, parties, celebratory spaces. I think the first thing to do is to be honest with yourself and just say, this is hard because it is. I feel like a lot of creatives, we're sensitive people. We're picking up on everything. It can be overwhelming. Something that I rely on quite a bit is like, let's give it 15 minutes. What's the worst that can happen? And then if I can do 15 minutes, what's another 15 minutes? And I mean, also, like, how long do you really need to be at a place? I feel
True.
like, I don't know. I mean, you don't have to push yourself so far out of your comfort zone. A little discomfort, I think, is okay, but it's your tolerance. And I think, like, make it fun for yourself. It is fun. It's fun to see art. It's fun to celebrate. And I really believe in glamour magic, the idea of armoring yourself to portray how you wish to be seen and how to feel. I think having talismans on you, I wear a piece of jewelry that was my grandma's when I need a little extra strength and feel like she's with me. I always wear a ring that I got with one of my best friends on a trip to LA, and it always makes me think of her, so she's with me. And, if you're into adornment like makeup, I think a black cat eye is quite protective, but do what makes you feel good. Wear something that makes you feel good. Indulge in glamour magic. And something else I've learned from recovery is it's okay to ask for help. It's good to ask for help. We all need help. So ask a friend to go with you. How fun. I think if you're curious about your relationship with alcohol, indulge the curiosity. I feel like I'm not here to tell you about the spectrum of what's an issue or a problem, but if you feel like it's something that needs to be looked at, go ahead and look at it. And I think it's okay to be uncomfortable and it's okay to acknowledge that. Like, I get overwhelmed in crowds and I employ all of the advice I'm sharing and it helps. I love going to art openings with one of my best friends. He's 6'5" and he's friendly and he's funny and he always checks in on how I'm feeling and I've just been honest with my friends. Like crowds are tough for me and I'm picking up on all of the messages on everyone in the room and every piece of art. It's a lot. Like the more vulnerable I've been and the more honest I've been, like, other people ask, like, "Are you okay? Like, how are you feeling here?" And that doesn't make me feel put on the spot. It makes me feel loved. And so I just would say indulge the curiosity, get a little out of your comfort zone, but you don't have to totally overdo it. Pop in and pop out. I don't know. It's just like, how much do
Yeah,
you really need to do? And maybe have a seltzer. There's usually seltzer at these things.
absolutely. You know, it's so funny too. I found, and I know for our listeners, I will be a little vulnerable. This is my first official week going into the second week of this journey again. And I just went to two parties and I'm going to my third one tonight. And I was surprised to see that a lot of it was in my mind. Like the voices in my head were saying, oh, they're going to ask you why, or they're going to harass you, or no one cared. We had such a great time. And
Good.
I realized that it was just me judging myself for being different versus other people actually had mocktails and seltzers, like you said, and snacks. And no one even looked at me any differently because it's all about our individual journeys. But there is a part of your book, and you paint this beautiful picture where you had a vision of yourself dancing with a martini and a cigarette, because that those kinds of identities are glamorized in our minds sometimes, right? And for me, it's like sitting in Paris with a glass of wine. And it's something that I had to mourn and realize like
Mhm.
there's so much more to gain. That's not the whole life. That's not my whole experience as a human. Can you talk about how to mourn those old parts of ourselves? Because we associate success or joy with those moments, but it's not always the case, right?
It's true. I mean, it's that chapter was really difficult to write. It was really difficult to record for the audiobook. I actually had to take multiple breaks, and I feel like the way we define ourselves can sometimes become limited due to our own limitations, but we are expansive, multidimensional beings. And there are so many different ways to exist in this world. And I think opening ourselves up to the possibilities is wonderful. I really feel like we are limitless and embracing that is beautiful, it's supportive, it's helpful. And I had to mourn many identities, many fantasies of what I thought would unfold. And when you let something go, you create space for something new. And there are so many ways to celebrate in a glamorous way and to redefine what glamour is, I think is wonderful. But something that I really embarked upon in that first year of sobriety was how to have fun as a sober person. And, now it's like, it's almost 9 years later. In some ways, that's fresh, but in other ways, that's a long time. And
Time.
I, uh, I have so much fun now. And I remember the fun that I had. And I know when the fun's over. So I get to leave. I get to leave actually before the fun is done. And then I have fun at home. Um, I I I talked about in my book about how there were so many people in my life who when I would say, I think I need to get sober again, because I've had many rounds of sobriety. Relapse is part of recovery. And something that had felt really important to me was this identity of being fun. Many guys I dated were like, yeah, if you stop drinking, you're not gonna be fun anymore. And like, there's nothing here for us. So like, we're gonna
It's a
end.
big
And that
fear.
Yeah, and and like no one want I don't know, I don't want to be a drag. And but like I was a wild one drinking. So I'm like, what kind of I don't that's just not how I want to define fun anymore. And if you do, that's totally cool. I mean, I'm not here to say what's fun and what's not fun, but it's not fun for me. And I feel like getting sober and recovery gave me a life beyond my sobriety. So I think about being sober a lot right now because I'm promoting this book,
Yeah.
but in reality, like I don't really think about being sober that much anymore. It's part of my ethos and my values and how I live my life, but I just don't think about it that much. And I really appreciate that you shared that fear about going to parties and people thinking like, is it weird that I'm not drinking? And I totally can relate to that. But something that I've really come to understand is if anyone's giving you a hard time about what you're doing and you're drinking, it's because a mirror is being held up to them and they don't like it. Because people who don't have an issue with alcohol don't have an issue with alcohol. And there's so many reasons why someone's not drinking. Like maybe they just don't like the taste. Like maybe they just don't want to tonight. Like, and I think that remembering that a lot of stuff is not personal is very powerful. So give yourself the freedom to do what you want. I think that's very powerful.
Thank you for that. And what I really love about this book is one of the issues that I had with my last attempt at sobriety was that I felt very judgmental towards myself. And I also did feel, and part of it was the people around me at the time. I think I didn't have good boundaries. And, it was people who would say things like, you should stop drinking, or drinking doesn't whatever affects you negatively spiritually. And I have like a rebellious streak. You wouldn't think that
Hmm.
by talking to me, but I'd be like, oh yeah, well, watch this, and it created a lot of like internal conflicts. On one hand, I knew it was good for me, but I hated being told what to do. And I don't think anyone likes it, right? And so this time was a completely different experience. It was a series of signs, synchronicities. The temperance card kept falling out. I mean, like literally I couldn't
Love.
even like get away from it. It was chasing me.
Amazing.
And then I also noticed like I couldn't really hear God's voice. I know that sounds very weird, or your higher self, or whatever that voice is inside of us that's like giving me the best ideas, or, like I felt very blocked creatively. And it wasn't like I was out drinking every night, but I noticed like I just wanted to hear it. And it was almost like this cloud. I'm wondering for you if you had a moment where it was like, sometimes we're led to sobriety because something bad happened or we are just like at the end of ourselves. But if you have like a really peaceful self understanding that you really want to do this, have you had a moment like that where you're like, I surrendered to this? Or maybe it was already while you were in sobriety.
A lot of like really bad things happened to me. Something like, I mean, totally, to be totally honest, I, there were things I had put in the book that then I took out because
Mm,
I really believe that I know I have a problem with alcohol and I don't need to like fillet myself publicly to truly prove it. I do believe
yeah,
like if I'm saying I have an issue with alcohol, I have an issue with alcohol. And people have a hard time with change. Like I experienced the same thing where had been people who were like, you don't have a problem, or like, I didn't know you had a problem. And it's like, that's kind of like none of your business. And I think that people think they're coming from a good place. And the reality is, like, when someone changes, everything changes. And so everyone's now going to have to kind of get on the ride of this change or not. But things are changing and change is uncomfortable. So I definitely hear stories from people who are like, I didn't have this explosive rock bottom. I just realized I needed to change my relationship with alcohol. And I think that's fantastic. I think if you feel something within yourself, follow that. And for me, there was a series of really majorly difficult challenges and pain and terror. And I kept going. I kept drinking. I was like, it's amazing. The depth of a rock bottom can really
my gosh.
continue to fall. But then there was something, if you're gonna say like what's the like aha moment, there was something where it was just like it was minor compared to the series of events that had led me to the space I was in, that just was like I have a problem and I need help and I need to get out of here. And I was ready to surrender. I had that willingness. I had that acceptance of I was not in control of this and truly was embracing that energy of temperance, which to me has that lack of control and that willingness to surrender associated with it. And it was time. I really
Thank you for
felt like it was
sharing.
time.
The first time in 2019, 2020, when I first was on a sobriety journey, it was like that. It was like rock bottom. I almost lost my relationship. Like everything was just falling apart around me. And it was like a red flag. Like if you keep going down, you're not coming out of this, you know? And it was an amazing time, but I decided to give it a try again with drinking, and it really didn't do much. It wasn't this horrible thing, but it just wasn't giving me anything. And you and I chatted a little bit before the show, and you said that everything good you have is because of sobriety. And I kid you not, I know it's only been like a week, but ever since I made the decision, like a very, very peaceful, like full body decision, I had the craziest things happening, like sales coming out of the blue sky, amazing
Yes,
connections, just feeling like joy, feeling actual joy for no reason, like waking up and being
yes.
like the sky is clear. And I'm wondering if you have any theories or like notions. Why is that? Why do we open so many doors when we go on this path when we're called to? Not everyone's called to this, but you know, for those who are.
I think there's clarity that comes with sobriety. And clarity, I think, can be quite a double-edged sword. I think of the Ace of Swords in tarot. And the truth is beautiful, it's helpful, but it can be searing and difficult. But I I had that a very similar experience in my first year of sobriety. And I share in my book about getting a reading from a friend who told me, like, everything you've been afraid of, everything you're worried about, it's all going to go away. You just have to say yes to stepping into this role of a spiritual advisor and remaining sober. And it's true. I mean, I can't believe the incredible blessings that came to me in that year. Sometimes I do believe we're rewarded for being on our path, that, but I also think that we're able to see it. I mean, how much could I really see hung over in bed in the dark? I just also think that when I was drinking, I couldn't hold these blessings. I couldn't handle them. So I think there's readiness that comes with willingness. And that's my theory on
I
it.
love that. Of
And I feel that, it's not like all my problems went away when I got sober. There's
course.
still issues, but I do feel that I can confront them, I can take them on, I can handle them, and clarity gives me that peace of mind to be able to do it and face these fears, face these challenges instead of hiding or running away or any of the methods that just don't really work.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Now, about your brilliant new book, and I really love it. I actually didn't know what to expect when I first received my copy, and I was a little scared, but it's absolutely perfect. No, not because I know you and I trust you, so obviously I started reading it, and I was very pleasantly surprised and in love, really. I First of all, I want to thank you for your vulnerability and the storytelling that you do. I can relate to so many moments. Second of all, you position this as a guide. You know, I listened to your podcast with Pam Grossman, love Pam also.
Yes.
For those listening, you go deep into the tarot and, you know, the 12-step kind of setup of this beautiful book. So check out that episode as well. But today I'm going to ask you about the tools that you provide. One for artists specifically, because our community is so creative, whether you're a curator, artist, or art lover. You have so many beautiful tools. You have the altar, crystals, color magic. It's something that you're known for, actually, right? You came to my membership and talked about color magic. And I would love to hear about, like, how do you interact with this book? Because it's not like something, I mean, you can read it. Obviously, it's very beautifully written, but it's more of like a reference guide to me. And it's very healing because I can just sit on my altar and read a chapter or do a spread, and I feel so nourished, right? It could be 5 minutes, it could be the whole day. I would love to hear your thoughts on how you envision readers interacting with this book.
Oh, I love to hear that. Thank you. Because that is what you're describing. That's my intention. And I truly believe that everyone can benefit from the framework of 12 steps. You don't need to be an addict, but 12 steps, I feel like, provides a framework for life, how to be human. And that's something I was really keeping in mind when I was writing this. I feel like, ooh, I feel like if so, each step is paired with one or two cards. It goes in order, the 12 steps, just like the Fool's Journey in tarot. And, I had a friend who told me this was also an intention I had. She told me she just opened the book like an oracle
Hmm.
and just read what was there, and it was exactly what she needed to hear. So I feel like you could do something like that. If there's a particular card that's speaking to you, maybe you pulled a card this morning, go to that chapter. I feel like you could read something about it. And then in each chapter, I also include the minor arcanas going in order as well to kind of flesh out those details. You could pull a ritual, you could pull a tarot spread. I feel like my thoughts on how to experience the book is to read it from front to back the first time, but then go back to it. Maybe if there's something that you feel like you're struggling with or feeling challenged by on a particular day, go back to another chapter and read it again or see how you can see it. Because that's the thing about the spiral of healing is that there's always a new layer to uncover. And I still view the steps and the cards in new ways depending on what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling, what I'm going through. So that's my thoughts on how to utilize this book.
Beautiful. And I have a question. This is a question I ask all our tarot, wonderful tarot experts that we have on a podcast. But for sometimes a card that might make you feel uncomfortable or even scared will come up. Like I kept getting the Six of Pentacles, I think with the like poverty stricken children.
Five of Pentacles. Yes,
Five.
yes.
And
Yes,
so
that's a
thank
tough
you. I'm
one.
still learning about my cards, but I'm wondering like how do you deal with like uncomfortable emotions when you pick a card that like the Tower or something where you're like, oh, because it's not like you explain, it's not like it's predicting the future, but rather like a mirror to face ourselves. How do you process uncomfortable cards?
I immediately put it back in the deck and pick another one.
Really?
Sometimes, but that's not really like this is the thing. I feel like when I was speaking to this before, sobriety has really given me the opportunity to sit with discomfort. That's one of the reasons I was drinking. I couldn't handle it. Like I was just like, I have to
Mm-hmm.
get rid of this. I have to get out of here. So what I feel like is instead of let's shift the perspective. What is this card showing me? And I feel like often if we have an aversion to something, I remember I spoke about this when we talked about color magic. There's an energy that's coming up and you have an aversion to it. Let's be curious as to why. What is this bringing up? Why does it feel like something I don't want to go near? And embrace the curiosity around it. I'm a huge fan of curiosity. I feel like I've brought it up multiple times. And just playing with it. Like, what is this saying to me? What is this bringing up? And it's why I really think it's wonderful to have a journal where if you're pulling a tarot card every day, writing about everything that's coming up, even if it's negative or something that you don't enjoy or like. It's information. So be with that information. There are cards like, yeah, like Five of Pentacles. Why am I sitting with poverty? Why am I sitting with lack mindset? That card also speaks to having challenges around asking for help. I mean, these are all things like, yeah, these are tough concepts. Of course, there's discomfort, but just playing with it. Like, that's the thing I love about witchcraft and I love about tarot is it encourages play and imagination and storytelling. So that's what we're here to do as humans. That's one of the things. We're here to tell stories. So, what's the story that's being told to you? And I feel like I'm laughing because it's like discomfort used to make me feel like I was going to die. And I'm telling you, discomfort's not going to kill you. It hasn't killed me. It's not going to kill any of us. And I get it though, it can feel excruciating, but we are strong and resilient and powerful, and there's a lot of power that comes from acknowledging something and doing something else. So
Mm,
give yourself the opportunity to do something else
I love that.
and see what you're learning from the experience. But yeah, it's hard to look at these things, but I also do feel that looking at it is far better than not. I and don't overdo it. Like I feel like we're talking about temperance. Like temperance is about moderation. So I feel like we all need to find the sweet spot of our capacity. And healing is hard. It can be exhausting just as much as it's fruitful and beneficial. So, I think it's like I can really relate to intensity. So if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it with my full being. And temperance taught me like sometimes it's okay to pull back a little bit, to maybe take a walk, to call a friend, to get out of my own head and then come back to it. So
Yeah.
I think it's like moderating those feelings and maybe if there's an uncomfortable card that's coming up, moderating
Hmm.
um, the feelings around it and journal about it. Think about and maybe what's bringing up. Maybe you're gonna feel it in this moment. Maybe you're gonna understand it later. Life is long. As much as we feel like life is short, a lot really isn't urgent. So I think being open to the manifestation in due time is really helpful
Yes.
too.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a big abundance mindset too, is trusting that you have enough time on this earth to do everything you're meant to do and not
Yeah,
falling into the trap of rushing and feeling like you need to be in a blue chip gallery the day you're born and all these things that people are
totally. I get
that
it.
things are yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Sarah, this is amazing. Well, for everyone listening, make sure to pick up a copy of Sober Magic, even if you're not identifying as a sober person. It just has such a beautiful framework for connecting with yourself on so many different levels. And I think even if it's not a substance addiction, anything you're dealing with could be applied to this amazing resource. Sarah, I know you're also an astrology expert, and I love your Substack. I love doing the spreads and reading your horoscopes. Can you
Thank
tell us
you.
a little bit? Could you give us a little peek into 2026 for our creative community? What are some themes that you're seeing as you're looking ahead? I would love to hear some little nuggets if you're open to sharing.
Totally. Well, what's so exciting is every year is associated with a tarot card, and we're going into a 1 year. So we're coming out of this 9 year. And so we have the magician, and I also feel like the Wheel of Fortune, which is the 10. So then we've reduced it down to one. And the magician and the Wheel of Fortune hold such powerful energies. I really think of the manifestation power of that magician. The magician shows us you have all of the tools and skills, talents, and experiences at your fingertips. What do you want? What do you desire? And once you have that direction, you know what to pick up to utilize it to make those dreams come true. The magician shows us how to set an intention and make it so. There's a lot of power in that card for you to utilize. And I feel like it really speaks to all of the creatives who are tuning in. What do you wish to create this year? It's already yours. Make it so. And the Wheel of Fortune reminds us that change is inevitable. Change is the only certainty in life. What goes up must come down, but it always comes up again. Everything is temporary. We're always in motion. And I just love these two cards. I think it's such beautiful energy to utilize this year.
Beautiful. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your journey so vulnerably and writing this amazing book. How can our listeners find you? What do you have going on? How can we support you?
Well, please stay in touch. I love sharing on social media. I'm on Instagram at I am Sarah Potter with an H. And Kat, thank you for sharing that you love my Substack. I love
Love it.
Substack.
I love Substack too.
I'm having so much fun on there. And so I hope you'll subscribe to my Substack. I have a lot of really fun events coming up, sober magic events to support my book, as well as I lead full moon rituals once a month in Asbury Park, New Jersey. I'm going to be doing more at home in New York City. I'm traveling with my book, so I'll be in Philadelphia soon. I'll be in
Please let me know
Salem.
when you're there. Please let me know.
Absolutely. I'm very excited about what I have in store for Philadelphia.
Yay.
And I'll be coming to Salem. I'm coming to LA. There's so many good things that we're always together virtually. You can book a reading with me. I do tarot readings. I do animal communication readings and energy clearings. I love making any moment more enchanted. I love working with brands and groups and celebrations. So if you need a witch, that's me. And I hope you find me.
Amazing. Well, Sarah, thank you for your time, and I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for being on the show again.
Oh, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you